You'll bring it on there too. So
Yeah. Well, that'll be good.
yeah, I think it's more just follow along. You can plug some in.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will start by standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. You may be seated. Chris, will you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Cavanis,
Here.
Councilmember Reed,
Here.
Councilmember Galloway,
Here.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Here.
Councilmember Dupre,
Here.
Mayor Foote.
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Cavanis,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Dupre.
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving through, this is a work session tonight. So just to remind you, we don't necessarily have to have public comment, but I'm going to ask for it at certain points. If you want to speak on a specific topic, we'll just say topic number one is number one, topic number two is number two, but there are slips of paper there. We'd like you to fill those out, know where to plug you in. And with that, we will start with Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. So tonight is a view of the 2027 draft budget. It is still under construction. This is not a version. This is a overview that will allow us to move forward and make some decisions further down the road that we're going to make. But tonight we'll look at the property taxes. That is one of the biggest things that is a topic. We want to make sure that we're controlling them and that we're doing what we can. We do have some discussions on ways to reduce the proposed levy, but we'll get into that. We also want to take a broad overview of the proposed ambulance services and an introduction, knowing that we're going to have much more detailed information at a later date. But we wanted to put that on there so that you're aware, because it is a major component of the proposed budget at this point. We'll do a review of the general fund. We'll review what we started out with in fiscal year 26. We do have a projected shortfall this year that is significant. We want to show you where the money goes so that as we try to make decisions in order to get us to closer to that 0 point on the budget, that you know the major areas of expenditures. And then we'll throw out just some general ideas. Nothing is in concrete, nothing that is going to be, this is what we need to do tonight. It's just, these are things to think about and areas that of consideration. Lastly, what we'll do is we'll look at some of the other funds. Most of those are in pretty good shape. I do have some concerns with a couple of them. And then we'll go through what's next. What are our next steps? What is our timeline? And where do we need to be and when? So with property tax. So looking at the property tax, there are changes within the proposal. First of all, as you'll see, okay, I'm using that pointer.
Yeah, it must
And
be,
it's not,
must be too weak to show
It's
up
not
very
there.
good on the light.
it might be the background too. So anyway, we have our consolidated general fund levy. Consolidated general fund levy is what used to be the 810 and the voted levies. Because we had a increase in our valuations this year of 4.8%. So our taxable valuations increased by 4.8%. But under House File 817, our levy is automatically reduced to where we only receive 2.8% increase in revenues under the consolidated general fund levy. Our property insurance levy increase under the proposal, that is mostly due to going through and reevaluating equipment adding equipment that wasn't on there, taking off equipment that they continued to have on there, but also looking at the replacement costs of structures. In doing that, that hadn't been done for several years. And so because of construction costs and everything else, they pushed the value up. So that pushed our property insurance up. We are looking at some ways to maybe reduce that and bring that down a little bit. Police and fire retirement, there is an increase there. We'll get into more as to the reasons why, but a good portion of that is based upon the addition of personnel. FICA and IPERS is along the same vein. There is some additional personnel, but there is also additional costs related to salary increases. The OEB, the other employee benefits, you see that there's a large jump there. There are two reasons for that. One is the addition of proposed personnel. Those are budgeted 100% family, right? As we hire, or if we hire the personnel, that will change. Not everybody's going to be a full family, but that's what we're budgeting for just in case. The large portion of that is due to the addition of personnel, but we also have a projected right now a 12.8% increase in our premiums. That is something else that we'll get into later, that we're looking to come up with solutions to reduce the other employee benefits levy. The debt service, our target is try to keep the debt service at a level, even with additional debt that we plan to take on. The idea is we don't want that to fluctuate. If we control the other levies in such a way and manipulate those and get them to where we want them to be, we keep that debt service at a steady level, so that is not being influenced while we're still able to meet our capital needs. Any questions on that page so far?
Can you just go, okay, so our valuations increased by 4.8%, but because of House File 718, we only receive, in all the works, and I'm generalizing, 2.8%. Correct?
It's the 2.8% increase in revenues for the general fund consolidated levy.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the only one. The other levies can take advantage of the increase in taxable values, but the general fund you get, as we call it, the haircut, where they reduce the levy to meet a certain revenue target.
So the 4-point-something number, that represents the growth of the county,
It presents the growth of the city.
of the city, not county.
And quite honestly, the growth of that is due to, this was a revaluation year. Once every 2 years under current code, the assessor has to go through and revalue properties based upon sales and appraised values. And that results in usually a increase in valuations, especially now with the housing market still staying very robust, and that properties are selling greater than what their current assessed values are. In past years, we've been able to capture 100% of that growth. This year we were, because of that cut, Administrator Rath had asked me to calculate, had we stayed at 8.51942 for the consolidated general fund levy, what would have been the additional tax revenue? And that would have been an additional $122,786. Okay. That is what we are not able to levy for. We understand that the mechanism under House File 718 was to allow for a break on property owners to not have these large increases and to save them on taxes. But we wanted to make you aware of what exactly that legislation is doing in regards to the general fund and capturing revenue off of valuation increases. Any other questions?
Oh, one right here.
Yes, sir.
Just wondering if it would have been too difficult for you to print all those numbers out on the sheets that you passed out for us?
Well, they're on there. They're just small.
Really?
Yeah,
That last number.
Oh my God, they're so small I couldn't see it.
I know. I know.
Thank you.
I've already had a request that to reprint this for you with just 2 pages per page, right?
All right.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like Cole said at the beginning, these are not the final requests of what we're looking
Correct.
at. These are kind of that starting point. This is where things are at right now, based off of the anticipated costs in those respective lines.
What we're really hoping to do is under the other employee benefits, find ways to come up some alternate health plans, maybe some changes in the health plan in order to lessen the premium increase plus lessen what we would be responsible for as a self-insured provider. So what are the dollars collected? And these are increased dollars collected. Okay, so this is what the increase is over last year. So in the consolidated general fund, 171,872. Property insurance, 107,276. Police and fire, $128,437 due to the proposed new positions. FICA and IPERS, $207,164. Of that, $27,444 approximately is for new positions. Under other employee benefits, 2 of the things, besides the premium increase, 2 of the other things that are contributing to the increased request for dollars is the new positions for almost 415,000. But we're starting to roll in the levying for the road use tax in order to keep that fund within the black. So this year, we're levying for a quarter, which is $260,798. Last year, we used reserves for 1 quarter in the road use tax fund. We're going to use a quarter of reserves again, so that the road use tax will receive half of their benefit cost, with 1 quarter coming from the benefits levy and 1 quarter coming from reserves. In debt service, we have an increase in dollars of 183,220, or a total tax increase as proposed of $621,087. Again, we will be working over the next several weeks in order to bring those numbers down. There will be some decisions made by the council when it comes to new positions or new services or anything like that will affect that other employee benefits levy, plus the police and fire and the FICA and IPERS. Any questions on this page?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
So walk me through, I'm not on the other employee benefits. I'm struggling. Are we adding so it's more than half of that is for new positions. How many positions are we looking to add?
That would be 13 new positions. There under the proposal, and we'll get to this, under the ambulance proposal as presented within this budget draft, 9 positions for firefighter EMTs, an administrative assistant in the fire department, the fire inspector, and then building code is asking for 1 more inspector, and community development is asking for a planner.
Okay. And my next question is that the way we have it set up does not take into account any changes at the state level that they're proposing or bills that have been proposed that affect property taxes.
Correct. There's 3 different property tax bills floating around out there, one in the Senate, one in the House, and one that the governor's proposed. None of those will take effect for fiscal year 27.
Okay.
Those will be for fiscal year 28. If they wanted to make changes for fiscal year 27, they need to do it now. And I don't see that happening because of the differences within the bills. They have to be able to come to consensus as to what they want to bring forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so as we go into, and we've discussed this a little bit already, the contributing factors to the increases, the 13 new positions, the road use tax, and again, as I said, we're levying for a quarter, using a quarter out of insurance reserves. And the health insurance premiums are budgeted at 12.8%. And we assume that all new and open positions will be a full family plan so that we are prepared in case that's the way it comes. So we've kind of gone over that. All right. So some of the ideas for reducing that levy, things that we're going to be looking at. Changes in our insurance benefits. We're looking at both in increasing the employee contribution. Currently, we are 90% city, 10% employee. We're looking at options that would be 85-15, 80-20. We're also looking at changing some of the benefits. We have some different options that are available that would change, could change coinsurance, could change deductibles, could change out-of-pocket maximums. We're also looking at an alternate plan, one that an employee could choose to take, and that would be a high deductible plan. By going on the high deductible plan, they could save a little bit on the premium cost. We could save a little bit on the premium cost. But the real savings to us would be the exposure, because they would have a greater exposure under the employee would have greater exposure under the high deductible plan. We could, and ours would be a lower exposure. We could adjust what was necessary for us to cover under our health self-insurance plan. The other option that we have that we're looking for, and we haven't got information back, there is a pool of other governments that have come together, and collectively they use their total population of employees on insurance to negotiate plan rates. We had asked for this at the beginning of February, end of January. They're in contact with the group. They're trying to get those. If we were to go to that type, we would move away from probably self-insurance to where we're buying the insurance and then use partial self-funding to buy down premiums or buy down deductibles or buy down out-of-pocket maximums. In other places where they have switched from buying the plan on their own or self-insurance, I can tell you that by going to the group and doing the partial self-funding, you can set up a pretty good plan and still save money to both the employee and the employer. Okay, so it is possible to do that. We're going to start presenting options to employees the week of November 16th. The plan is that the administrator, city administrator, HR director, and myself would go out to the departments. We would explain where we're at, explain the different options, and then get feedback from them on what their preference is. Whether it's they're willing to pay more in premium costs, but maintain the plan, or they're willing to do change the plan, but keep the premium contribution the same, or a combination of the two. Some of the preliminary discussion that we've had with a small portion, a very small portion, small group, they're receptive to some of the different ideas. So what we want to do is we want to get out and get that feedback so that we can have a better idea of where the employees are comfortable with, and then come back and try to look at what is necessary for us in order to reduce the levy asking. Any questions?
Are the current plans on a calendar year?
The current plans are on a fiscal year.
They are in the fiscal
They
year.
are in a fiscal year.
So by going to them in November, you've still got 3/4 of a year to figure out what you want to do.
No, we would go to them starting July 1.
July 1. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I said November? I
February,
remember saying November, but okay. No, it'd be July 1.
like in a week, we'll go out. to-
July 1. Okay.
I'll have to go back and watch the, I didn't remember saying November. Yeah.
November.
All right.
Okay. How long have we been self-insured?
I can't really answer that. I can tell you that some of the employees that are sitting here probably as long as they've remembered. We have sufficient number of employees that we're able to be self-insured. At this point, with the cost factor, looking at buying a plan could that would be beneficial to us. What I'll tell you is that if we went with the group and had the partial self-funding, the way it works is we have to deposit a certain amount of money with them for what they think the exposure will be on the partial self-funding. We have that in reserve because as a self-insured, we have to maintain a certain reserve to cover our exposure
Sure.
on cost. So we could certainly use some of that to set up the fund, the partial self-funding to begin with. And then as time goes on, if we need funds, we can still pull out of those reserves instead of having to put it back on the benefits levy.
Right. The reason I'm asking is because, as you said, our numbers of employees have dropped over the years.
Correct.
So if we had this 20 years ago or whatever, we had a lot more people. So they were all putting into it, which made it
Right.
easier to manage because it's more of a numbers game.
Right. And honestly, going through the information that I've had to send to the auditors, the number in one of the statistics they like is the top 10 employers within the city of Ottumwa. We're always within that top 10.
Sure.
And I think from what I looked at, like, there was a 2006 to 2016, right? I think the change was like 30 employees. And since that time, we've kind of leveled off at 265.
Okay.
I think it's doing, at 265. We've kind of leveled off at that amount. What's that?
At the heat of the season, we're about 240, but
Yeah.
we average right just over 200.
Okay. It's just, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the ideas that we could do to reduce the other employee benefits is budget the new positions for partial year. More reflective of reality. We're not going to have any of the new positions that you would approve ready to go July 1. So we could look at a timeline and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to figure it might be September before we get this number on, and it might be October before we get this number, and so on and so forth, before all those open positions are staffed. And based upon that, we would adjust our numbers. That would help bring the levy down. Knowing that in fiscal year 28, we would then budget for the actual coverage, which means that you could have out of those 13 positions, if they're approved, you could have only 6 that took the full family, 5 took employee spouse, others took single, which would change things. I know that in previous fiscal years, as we're looking at doing the projections for the current fiscal year ending, that Barb has come and said, well, wait a minute, these here and these here didn't take the family, so this is really the projection to the end of the year. So we can certainly do that. All right. So
Are you a gambler?
am I a
Are you
gambler?
willing to roll the dice? Because that's what you're doing here, I think.
No, sir. I don't think I'm rolling the dice. I think what it is I'm presenting options that are viable, in that we know that everything that was put up there is budgeting that every position is filled and ready to go July 1. Well, that's not going to happen, right? We can look at the timeline that if we started right now, if council approved those new positions and we started right now, that we know that we wouldn't have everything filled July 1. We might not have them filled until January 1.
But the following year, the whole load comes on board.
Yes,
And that's
they
why we
would,
budget
but right now what it is all 13 of those positions that are proposed are budgeted as full family. Not all of them are going to be full family. So the amount asking when they are come on in fiscal year 28 will be less than what it is now.
Okay,
Okay. So again, we're going to do a broad overview here because we are going to have much more information. It says greater detail on the 24th of February. However, Chief Canto has decided that he would rather be halfway across the world getting married on that day, and that his lovely bride would rather not have him Zoom in to the meeting. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to push that back either as a workshop after the meeting on March 2nd, or we'll have it worked into the meeting on March 2nd somehow to have a much broader overview or a much more detailed look at the ambulance service. But as it stands right now, with what's proposed, we would operate one ambulance through the fire department in collaboration with Ormex. This is not us taking over for them. It is in collaboration with them. Chief Canto has had discussions with Ormex and us running one ambulance, okay? Currently proposed within this budget is 9 additional firefighters, EMTs. However, and again, with discussions with Chief Canto, that could possibly be reduced to 6. So we'll begin looking at that. We do budget in 1 administrative assistant. 25% of that would be paid out of the ambulance. The remaining would be paid out of the fire department. The administrative assistant would be absolutely essential should we bring on the ambulance service. As proposed right now, the ambulance service would have a deficit for year 1. Okay? Not sugarcoating it. For year 1, we would have a deficit. However, in year 2, we would pick up additional federal funds that we believe would more than pay for the service. We'll have, again, more detail on that March 2nd, okay?
can you tell us about how much deficit that would be in the first year?
If you include benefits,
No, I don't know anybody wants to work without benefits.
well, no, I'm
Okay.
going to tell you here, but if you include benefits, it's about $785,000. However, to the general fund itself is 200 and some thousand dollars. Where do I got it here? 205,000. We'll just go to the next slide.
Are we not talking today about this anymore?
Apparently not.
So it's just, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it's just a high view.
Okay, we're still doing the high view, right?
Right.
Okay.
There's still other numbers. We had some discussions with the gentleman up in the Des Moines area who consults and actually
Okay.
takes some of this information, puts it into play to get some real numbers.
Perfect.
But there's that funding through the ground emergency medical transport that the federal government has. And
Yes.
that we can take advantage of that money.
Okay.
And in doing that, there's a lot of parts that are moving that we can utilize that funding for, which again, the administrative assistant would even be partially funded through that program. So we're gathering all that information.
Okay, but we're still going to do an overview of that
It's
beyond
just-
this
Yeah, it's just, yes.
tonight.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I was just confirming. I was getting a little confused the
Right.
way
No,
you were
no.
talking.
This is a broad overview. And we wanted to bring it forward so you know, because it is a major component of this proposed budget, right? 9 new positions or 10 new positions related to that, the amount of money that goes into it. So we wanted to make you aware of it. We wanted to focus on it just a little bit so you know it's there. What we are going to urge you to do is that if you have specific questions, right, come to me, come to Chief Canto before he leaves for his vacation in 2 weeks. But come with the questions. We'll answer as much of them as we possibly can. But again, on March 2nd, we'll have a much more detailed proposal for you, right? And when I get to the end, we're not having to make critical decisions just yet, right? We do have time.
Cole, could I just clear one thing up? When
Yeah.
you say we would pick up federal funds, is that guaranteed we would pick up those funds, or we apply for those federal funds?
Well,
Guaranteed funding through Medicaid.
yes.
And so, but I also want to be clear, and I know that Mr. O'Donnell hit on this. This is not the Ottumwa Fire Department looking to take over EMS. This is the Ottumwa Fire Department working collaboratively in the system that is there now, helping shore up that system. That's exactly what this is.
And Ottumwa Regional is,
I had the discussion originally with the previous, which we actually, with Mr. Kohler, when we had that initial discussion in reference to doing this. I believe I haven't furthered that discussion at this point, but I need to know that city council is on board if we continue down that path.
you spoke to the new president?
We have not yet.
Okay.
All right. So the other thing is this is, again, not anything set in stone. We have plenty of time to go through this. Additional questions that you're going to have, we're willing to answer those, right? You just have to let us know whether it's an email, phone call, or in person. Come to us. We'll walk you through it. Okay. But all right. So again, we're gonna have the greater detail. The GMAT funds, just so you know, are based upon the number of Medicaid runs that you have. Wapello County has the highest number as far as percentage of Medicaid recipients out of the state. We're at 26%.
Correct.
26%. Right. I can tell you right now, having looked at GMAT at another position that I had, that at that 26%, that money is going to be guaranteed to us. We're going to have sufficient number of runs that money would be guaranteed. The federal government has signed funding through their fiscal year 28. Okay. Quite honestly, I don't see that money going away, because that's the only way that rural communities are going to be able to continue to fund ambulance service.
Didn't we, as a state, apply for that federal funding that passed for the rural, supporting the rural medical?
Didn't hear.
There was a bill that just passed that Iowa had to apply for it, and I believe we did with the federal government, that's supposed to support our medical.
Or
And the
rural
ru-
medical, yeah. So Iowa
Yeah.
did.
And it was
we-
supposed to be covering some of the ambulance services and stuff. I don't know that we've been accepted for that yet, but I know that the application was sent in.
Well, but I think the GMAT
It's different.
money is going to be separate from that.
Okay, but I think there's
Yeah.
that money too to look at, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is through Medicaid. The Ground Emergency Ground Emergency Medical Transport money is through Medicaid.
Okay,
And it's the way it's determined, each agency is different depending upon your cost for service. But initial numbers that we have received from, I'll just give you two examples. Urbandale receives about $3,100 per incident GMAT money, plus in 37 to get back to the state. Burlington, the city of Burlington last year brought in about $1.2 million in ground emergency medical transport money. So this is funding that is there for public agencies to take advantage of.
right. And are you planning on having your admin do the billing, or are you going to be using an outsource? Because those ICD 9 and 10 codes can get tricky.
So something like the outsourcing of having a billing company that's funded through them, you can use that as business operations
Okay. I just know, having done medical billing, that you got to be really careful. Otherwise you can get
Yeah,
fall in the cracks.
if we wanted to have the administrative assistant just do billing, they would be 100% within the ambulance service because, and having had experience with ambulance services elsewhere, an outside company is, especially if we're only running one rig, right, is going to be absolutely essential.
Okay. Thank you.
So any other questions on the ambulance service before we move off?
Well, I think one thing we need to do is find out if the current management of the hospital is still interested at the level they're in now.
Certainly.
Otherwise, our proposal isn't worth powder and lead.
Certainly. We want to make sure that we're working in cooperation and conjunction with Ormex.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So before we could jump into the general fund and where we're at, just kind of a review of fiscal year 26. We started with a shortfall of $405,000 approximately. And that was to be made up by open positions. When we had our first quarter review, we were ahead on revenues and expenditures. We were doing okay. In looking at Q2, which I will get more into at our regular meeting on the 17th, projected revenues remain steady. In looking at the projected expenditures that department heads put into the budget, we may not be able to make up the shortfall. But I want to see where the expenditures are actual through the system, and be able to give you a more definitive answer next week. Okay. Right. Even with the projected expenditures, we do make up a good portion of the shortfall, but not 100%. But we could that could change as we go on, and again as I look at Q2. Any questions on current fiscal year? Okay. All right, so the general fund. So again, we had an allowable growth of 2.8% or $171,875 in new tax dollars. We get in fiscal year 27, we get an additional local option sales tax of $522,159 estimated. As you know, the reallocation for local option sales tax from a 90-10 to a 70-30 took effect January 1 of this year, 2026. So for fiscal year 26, the first half, the general fund only received 10%, and the second half we get 30%. So starting fiscal year July 1, we get that full 30%, and we can budget for that. So that's the additional dollars in local option sales tax. We're projecting within the fire department with the proposed ambulance that we have inspection and ambulance, fire inspection and ambulance fees of $762,000. $110,000 of that is estimated to be for inspections. When it comes down to it, we have $2,752,917 in additional expenditures. Now, a good portion of those are funded through the benefits levy, and that's where you come into the 13 new positions that are being requested. But out of that, $1,530,478 is currently attributed to the ambulance service. But if you factor out the benefits of both the ambulance service and the other new positions, the net impact to the general fund, the direct impact to the consolidated general fund levy and all the other revenues is $205,949 for the ambulance, $119,350 to the other two positions. That creates a current shortfall of $1,021,913. If we were to carry the ambulance shortfall for 1 year, knowing that we could make up with GMAT money in year 2, the shortfall becomes $815,964. Okay? Not sugarcoating it. We are going to have tough decisions that we have to make to get us anywhere near a zero balance budget.
Okay, so I have a question. I
Yeah.
thought on the ambulance service slide, you said our deficit with, from the ambulance alone would be 785,000. But I don't see.
Well,
it.
yes, but you have to factor out the benefits,
Okay.
right?
So
So
then,
what it is the total expenditures, including salaries and benefits, right?
and then the benefits would be in the benefit levy.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. So when you see, when I see the net impact of the general fund up there,
That's the two.
that is directly just the salaries. Okay. So in the general fund, where are our expenditures? So public safety is our largest area of expenditure, single largest area of expenditure. In fiscal year 26, we budgeted a little over $12 million. For fiscal year 27, including the ambulance service and other new positions within there, we're at $14,271,000 and change. That's an increase of $2,193,877. In public works, we're increasing the request right now is an increase of $138,876. Health and students, social services, that is where one of the positions is budgeted for. The increase is $249,219. Culture and recreation actually sees a decrease in their request, but that's due to a drop off of a capital project that was budgeted, was fully funded. In economic development, you see an increase there of $158,880. Again, there's one additional position.
Which
General-
position is that?
What's that?
Which position is that?
That would be the planner.
Okay, I have a question on that.
Okay,
I know this is a general overview, but I have a question.
sure.
Don't we already have a planner? Isn't Amal a planner?
That is a question.
Am I wrong?
She has a planning background.
Okay.
But the counselor to be the planner,
What do we hire her for?
to be the director of community development.
Yeah.
Cole, it
Yes.
looks like HNS, there must have been a miscalculation. But the number is there. It should be about 110,000.
Oh, it's
110,000.
My addition is I stand corrected. That would be, about 110,000. So I stand corrected there. So that's 110,000 there. I triple checked numbers, but I didn't triple check that one. So I apologize. All right. General government, you see an increase of $171,960. I can tell you that about 50,000 of that is in my department. And the reason being is that we receive a payment in lieu of taxes from Ottumwa Housing that we didn't realize in previous years that we were supposed to give a portion to the school district and a portion to the county. So that was unbudgeted in last fiscal year. It's budgeted for next fiscal year. So there's an increase there of about $50,000, and that is part of what's in general government. I wanted to point that out because if you take that out of there, general government's only around an increase of 121,000. So we have three areas where the general fund supports non-general fund activities. In some budgets, in some cities, the library and cemetery are under the general fund. We have them within the special revenue fund. I believe that the reason why they were there is because at one time they managed some of their own money, if not all of it. When we brought it in-house, they wanted to make sure that that money did not get commingled within the general fund. And so we put them under special revenue and we track their revenues and expenditures, but we still have to support them. So for the library, we're increasing our support by $12,000, which is 2.8%. Right? They get the increase in the revenue, 2.8%. Same with cemetery, 2.8%, $4,880. BBC, that is also a 2.8%, though we believe it's probably going to be more significant than that. In the past fiscal year, they were short $150,000, which we loaned them. Current projections right now, they're targeting maybe $100,000 short of making budget. So again, these are things that we provide support for. As far as the BVC and the library, those used to have voted in levies that are no longer there. They're part of the consolidated general fund levy. So as we continue to get our haircuts and work towards that getting down to that 810 limit, it becomes harder and harder to support those activities.
I have a question. So why aren't we budgeting knowing that each year, if we look at past year trends or past years with BBC, for example, we should be able to see like a trend. So why wouldn't we budget for that, knowing that if looking at trends, we're having to pay an additional $150,000 each year?
Well, part of it is based upon what they submit as a budget as well. And if they make budget, then that extra 150 or that extra 100,000 shouldn't be there.
Yes, but if we look at the last, I mean, since I've been on, this is five budgets I've been through. I don't think they've made budget at all. And I think it's been about 100 to 150,000 in support. So I would say, wouldn't it be kind of smart for us to start budgeting with that in mind and rejecting the budget, say, send it back, plan for your shortfall?
I can, if we want to budget what we believe the full support to have to be, that just adds to the shortfall in the general fund.
I'm just trying to be realistic in it.
Well, and I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely don't disagree. But the reason why I put that up there is because these are, we're obligated to support those.
Yes.
Right. When we get a little bit further, I do have some concerns about the library.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be facing a shortfall this year in both the operational fund and the bequest fund. And so we're going to have to either up our support in order to keep them at a zero amount,
Mm-hmm.
or the library is going to have to look at significant reductions, whether it's hours or personnel or materials or what.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question also.
Yeah.
On the Bridgeview amount, you said that they or you estimated that would go down to about $100,000
No.
loss.
Well, what it is there is with the financials that we just got, they're looking at probably $100,000 short of them making budget.
And does that include the 2.8% that we were going to increase?
No, that's the current fiscal year. That's the current fiscal year.
Yeah, I think that's what Councilwoman Galloway was suggesting, that instead of the 330,000 up there, it should be 430,000
Correct.
to reflect the $100,000 loss in addition to what we're contractually supplying.
And just to be clear, that has nothing to do with the 150,000 that was lent to them last year.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That is still due and owing.
Okay.
And payments have not been made as of today.
And I also want to just stress too, that we are contractually obligated to fill if they have a shortfall, we have to.
Correct.
And so that's why I'm asking why we wouldn't just start to plan for that budget too.
That's a very good question, and I can do that. That just means that
I get it.
we have to have additional discussions because that increases the shortfall within the general fund,
Or very real discussions.
or very real discussions on what to do.
Cole, when were payments due to start?
What's that?
When were payments due to start?
As soon as they made a profit.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's not, yeah, and day 1, day 30, but they are accruing interest on whatever balance is outstanding. So it's in their interest to pay it sooner rather than later. They had to have it paid in full by the end of the current contract or be in jeopardy of non-renewal.
When is the current contract up?
It's a couple years yet. I can
Do-
look up the
I think
actual
we're,
date.
I think we're at least 2 years down the road.
Yeah, and does that include does the current contract and the way you just explained, it include like, they can re-up their, I can't think of the term.
An auto renewal.
Renew, thank you.
Automatic renewal.
Yeah.
Not sure.
So we should look at that, just
Correct.
throwing that out there because.
Correct.
Anyways.
Yes. All right. All right. So here's some of the ideas. Like I said, if we carry the direct shortfall in the ambulance service, which means the direct impact to the general fund, carry it for a year, pay back when Fed money is available. Look at our amenities. Do we do something? And again, these are just ideas we're throwing out for thought. These are not anything like, oh, hey, I want to get rid of this, or staff wants to get rid of this, or anything else. But we are exploring options on different things. With the beach is subsidized to under the current proposed budget of $487,000 in change. Okay. The depot, I put the depot up there. We're really not subsidizing a whole lot because it's $25,000 projected. But I put it up there because there's some ideas that if we're able to get 1 or 2 renters for the second floor, that could be income that could offset not only what operations we might have to be responsible for, or we can bring those our responsibility down to almost zero, and be able to bring in that new revenue.
And do you know if we are actively searching for renters for that building?
Not at this time, because we have some planned improvements to it that have not been being completed. But in discussions with Administrator Rath, we're looking at possibly changing some of those improvement plans and getting someone in there sooner.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, now Amtrak's contract is up in 2027, right?
I'm not sure when it's up. I'm not sure what it is,
If I
but
remember correctly, I believe it was through 2027. And what is it that they're paying us each month?
it's I believe it's 1,900 and change.
Okay, I thought that should have gone up some. I thought it was,
I'll look, but I thought when I looked at the contract that was the contracted amount.
okay. Well, when the museum had the possession of the depot, that paid for most of the expense of running the depot. So it was pretty much self-sustaining. So if you did rent those upper levels, which I would think would be doable, that in itself would pay.
Correct. And that's the reason why I put it up there. It's if we were able to get renters in there, we could take that $25,000 liability and make it into a something positive on the other end. So again, I bring up the BVC. Current general fund subsidy of $330,000, but we also levy in the insurance levy, property insurance levy, $155,000 for the insurance. So outside of planning for any budgetary shortfall, that's the direct cost to the taxpayers of Ottumwa is $485,000. It's out there. It's something that I can tell you that a lot of communities are looking at their amenities as things get tight. It's hard to come in and say, okay, public safety is the largest one expenditure in the general fund, we're going to come in and we're going to cut that in order to make up the deficit, right? That's hard to do. So a lot of communities take the easier route, which is looking at their amenities. Not that again, we're proposing anything. I'm putting this up there so you know where the money is going and how it affects the general fund.
Yeah.
When we have to cover that shortfall, where does that money, where
It
are we
would come
taking
out
it
of
from?
reserves. We have reserves that could cover our shortfall.
Correct. So what are our reserves? Because we have to have a certain percentage, and maybe you don't have that with you. Maybe that's more for next week. But because I don't remember the exact.
Actually,
I
Councilmember,
love that.
I brought this because I figured there might be some questions. So under our fiscal policy, we have to maintain a 15 to 25%, and we are not allowed to recommend a budget where expenditures where the reserve at the end is greater than 25%.
Okay.
Okay. So we would have to eat into our reserves in order to do that. What I can tell you is that the projected reserves at the with this current budget would be somewhere around much closer to 11-12%.
Okay. So okay.
Right.
That's, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I was able to pull up the agreement with Bridgeview Center. The current agreement is a 5-year term, started on July 1 of 24, expires June 30 of 29. It does offer up to 2 additional 5-year extension terms, subject to mutual agreement of the parties, or if it's terminated earlier as set forth in the agreement. So in order to have that additional extension, that was one of the reasons for having the language in there about having that repaid by the date before that, because that would I would assume play a factor into any potential extensions.
Agreed. And never mind.
All right. So continuing with the ideas, eliminate the new positions in building and code and or community development. The other option that isn't necessarily up there, but not do the ambulance service. Okay. But, the ambulance service and the fire inspector provide revenues to either cover or offset their cost.
Yeah.
The new positions in building and code and community development do not directly have revenues that would offset their cost.
But potentially their impact, because we have more buildings being inspected and that kind of stuff, we could see a revenue increase in property tax income.
Yes.
Maybe a couple years down the road,
It
but
would
still,
and
instead of thinking about today, we would be thinking about tomorrow's tax
correct,
base.
because the next thing on the list right there is we need to look beyond next year.
Yes.
Because in fiscal year 2028, we will not get any new local option sales tax money absent any change at the legislature. In the Senate bill, there is a proposal to where local governments could go to 1.5 cents on the local option sales tax. I'm assuming that it will take, that would have to go back to a vote of the people in order to increase it. And then there would have to be a specification as to what the funds would be used for. The only other source right now that we could increase that we have control of is franchise fees. And I already know that it's not popular with you, it's not popular with the public, right? We're currently at 3% on gas and electric. We can go to a total of 5%. It's there. It's an option that I have to present. Probably won't go anywhere because I know the feeling of the council already, but it's there. Okay.
On the lost tax, we're currently at 1%.
We're
correct?
currently at 1%, and which is the maximum under current law.
Right, thank you.
Correct. What we're also looking at is we will have reduced tax revenues in fiscal year 28, absent any new legislative action. Because under House File 718, by fiscal year 29, we have to be at $8.10 for the consolidated general fund levy, period. Okay? And so that is going to have an effect. We've been trying over the last couple of years to gradually bring ourselves down, making hard decisions now instead of rolling along until fiscal year 2019 and then having to decide how we're going to make up that difference. So under fiscal year 26 and 27, because in 26 we did not get a haircut from 718. What we did was reduced our benefit levy by an amount equal to what the reduction was necessary in the consolidated general fund levy, so that less money was going to the general fund, and we had to make up that difference. We're doing the same thing this year, and probably next year, because in order to levy the benefits levy, the general fund, consolidated general fund, has to be at its maximum in order to do that. So what we would probably do is then calculate what the amount necessary is to get us to where we need to be for fiscal year 28, and not levy that in the benefits levy and not transfer that to the general fund. Okay. Another thing to look at, do we need to look at service levels? And that is service levels for all departments. Police, fire, building, code, community development, parks, rec, library, anything at City Hall, right? Do we look at those service levels? Okay. Again, this is a suggestion, not looking for any feedback tonight, but these are some of the ideas that are out that we're having to look at. Okay. All right, so some of the next steps that we have to look at. All right, we're going to refine the ambulance service proposal. We're going to work on levy reduction. Staff is going to, did I skip over one?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we did. Okay, let's go back. Other funds. So several other funds are using reserve balances for capital projects, sewer operations and sewer capital, recycling, community development fund 174. We are taking reserves that are in 151 that were budgeted to some of these programs. We're transferring to 174. We're using those funds for what was in their CIP requests, such as the demolition program, some of the downtown incentives. We're using those reserves in order to not ask for them as part of the bonding. Other funds, equipment purchase, Fund 310. We are using reserves to make capital purchases there. Again, that does not go on to the debt service asking. Airport projects and the street projects are using reserves. The street actually has more reserves than expected because one of the projects came in $700,000 under budget, so we can apply that to future projects. When we look at the bonding, we're requesting $2,626,690 for capital projects. But we reduced that bond amount by using reserves. And this right now includes an additional $400,000 for street repairs. So that would go into Fund 301 and would allow them, again, to complete more street projects and expand the program. Any questions? As far as the other funds, I really don't have any concerns except for the library funds. Okay, so again, now we go to the next steps. We're going to refine the ambulance proposal. Again, we're looking at maybe possibly going down to 6 instead of having 9 firefighter EMTs. We're going to work on the levy reduction, as we said. Staff is going to come up for alternatives to expenditure reductions. Where can we save? Where can we reduce? You know, we can trim around the edges, but we're going to have to come in. We're going to have to come in, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. We don't have to make those decisions tonight. We don't have to make those decisions next Tuesday. We don't have to make those decisions even March 2nd. What we have to do is we have to have our tax levies to the county by March 5th. We can submit the maximum. As it is right now, we can submit that because you can always go down. You just can't go up. So once we submit it, that's the maximum. We don't expect it to be there. We expect that to come down. But we have time, right? For the budget hearing and certification, it's targeted for April 21st. However, we can have certification before April 30th. We can have a meeting, we have a special meeting, we can do certification up until the 29th. I just have to have an approval by the 30th so I can submit it to the state. Another option is that whatever we get it down to, that's what we submit, knowing that we can continue to make adjustments up until July 1 and past in order to reduce things. Just because we're submitting a budget that has a shortfall in the general fund or shortfall in the library fund does not mean that that is what we have to be. Once we pass it, it becomes a living document that we can change, we can modify, we can make additional cuts. You know, it's going to be harder to bring in additional revenues, but we can make additional cuts. We can make, you know, we don't have to make all the decisions. We're going to need to make a lot of decisions, but we don't have to make all the decisions by April 30th. Okay. So lastly, again, we have time to decide. So questions. We are going to, you know, we're not the only city going through having to make hard decisions. Okay. You know, my listserv and in talking with other managers when we get together with them, there's a constant talk. Okay, what are you having to cut? What are you having to do? What are your ideas, you know, in reducing here or reducing there? Are there, you know, services that can be combined? Is there ways to economize in any of the ideas that are out there? And those are ideas that we're going to be looking at and presenting them. As Administrator Rath kind of pointed out to me, you know, tonight, you're on the internet, you're looking at the menu of the restaurant you want to go to, right? Later on, we're going to come to you and we're going to say, okay, here's the menu. What do you want? Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay.
So, Mr. O'Donnell, we know that when the governor was here, she made the statement how that cities needed to get used to offering less services. She made that statement out at the Indian
Correct.
Hills meeting.
I believe the actual quote is cities are going to have to decide what they need, what they want to do without.
Now, on a positive note, because I know some of this is a little doom and gloom here, at that same meeting, the city of Ottumwa was called out as being ahead of the curve of many municipalities. So with the slope of our rate and tax increases over time been much slower than the average across the state. So I think to the credit of council members that were here in the last couple of years and those past, we have made a lot of those tough decisions and have made some of those adjustments, and to the staff that have helped with that. It's just, it's the way things are now. And so we're going to be looking at those tough decisions, and you're going to ask elected officials going to be asked to make some choices for the people that we represent or you represent. But that's what staff is here for, to help with providing that a la carte menu of options and, you know, identify, okay, if we did reduce service X, here's the impact in dollars that would give us. If we were to add something, what does that look like? And so those are the options that will be coming forward in meetings to come here.
And I urge any of you that if you want to have further discussions, schedule some time with me. I'll sit down, anytime you want and go through and answer any questions that you have. I also urge you that if you have any further questions for Chief Canto before the March 2nd meeting, that you contact him and have, answer those questions. I'll try to answer as many on the ambulance service that I have information for. He has much more information on that. But we will answer any of your questions. And when we have further meetings, we'll bring that information out so the public is fully aware, because we don't want to just hide anything from the public. This is not your budget. This is not the city's budget. It's their budget. That's the way I've always operated. It's the people's budget. Okay. So they have to know. So we will provide updates. We'll have more work sessions on this that people can attend or watch online and excuse me, and hopefully have questions answered. If you get questions from constituents, forward them on to me. I'll answer them as best I can.
So before the next meeting, are we going to be getting something with numbers on it that we'll be able to look at?
I can send you the line item budget. What I will tell you is that absence of context, the information that you get from it may not be as beneficial as you think it might be. But I can send you the line item, but proposed line item budget. But what it is when it comes out, it has, this is what the request is. It doesn't have the context of why that request was made.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. I think I would like to have that line item budget.
Tomorrow morning, I will send it out via email, and those that want the hard copies, Chris will certainly print off hard copies.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another caveat to that is it is subject to change a lot.
I understand
so-
that.
I've been, yeah.
This is a preliminary, but looking at this doesn't give us a whole lot to go on.
You're right. It's the overview. The problem is that if we wanted to go through line item by line item, we would have to have a work session every night, and those work sessions would be 3 to 4 hours for the next 3 weeks.
No, I get that. I just know that, like you said, there's some departments that everything's great, and then there's other areas that are of concern.
Right.
So if we can look at those that are of concern, maybe we'll see something.
Certainly. And what I would say is when you get this, if you have questions, I'm available.
All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. So next up, my understanding, Chief Canto, you're going to talk about the next item. Is that correct? Or did we hear what we needed to hear about the EMS introduction?
That was all rolled into that.
So we've heard it all.
Yeah, so you're actually done. Yeah. Unless you have any other questions.
Well, what I may do is, I know there's several people here. I didn't get any slips of paper for public comment.
We just have one.
We have one? Okay. Thanks, JD. Okay, so Tim, Richmond.
Tim Richmond, Director of Emergency Management. Many of you know me. I wanted to introduce to you the people I asked to come tonight. So we normally meet, this is our normal night to meet for the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council. So when we saw EMS introduction on the agenda, we were insanely curious because nothing has been brought to us. But I want to introduce several folks behind me are part of that council. I would just say that collaboration means you build consensus of stakeholders, and these are part of our stakeholders. And so if we have proposals, I'm sure that much of what Chief is working on aligns with what we are also discussing, but we're not hearing details in MSAC from the fire department. I think that's important because to be blunt, at the end of the day, if you can figure out a way to finance this, then you don't need us to ask the taxpayers for a levy, and we can just stop working. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think GMAT is the answer. I question consulting with a suburb of Des Moines and not a community similar to our size. And you can talk to Fairfield, Centerville, other places that are much closer to us in demographics and get the story about how they struggle and how they have to rearrange, cut positions just to keep that ambulance going. Now, I fully support, this is me speaking for me as a 30-year veteran of EMS in this community, the need for having an ambulance. That's why we have it, right, Phil? But we got to figure out how to do that. But we've got to be real and be specific about the numbers and be very intentional. And at this point in current state legislature, I'd be damn scared of what they're going to do next. There's like 4 different proposals right now, what they're going to do with property tax. Well, the one thing we do know for sure, they're going to do something. And it's probably not to our benefit. There's also discussions about going after local option sales tax, the state taking it over and giving us some sort of formula. Will that look like what it does today? I don't know. I think a lot of our municipalities do a lot with that. So I think we had to be open with each other and have these real conversations. And I think the MSAC group is what was designed for by the Board of Supervisors. And so one of the individuals behind me is Richard Bergman, the new CEO of the hospital. I think he would like to have these conversations as well. I understand the timeliness of it and why he brings this to you now, because this is the right time, right? Because you're budgeting and you're talking about that stuff. But I know this is preliminary, I get that, but that presentation would give me some need for antacid at the moment. There's just a lot of questions. So all I want to bring to you tonight is transparency, have conversations with us, bring stuff to us, let us be part of the conversation. Ottumwa's the biggest player here, but the decisions made at Ottumwa affects this entire county.
Sure.
And we have to all be on the same page when it comes to healthcare, and it isn't just EMS. I had a recent conversation with Linnell Deers, our Director of Public Health, and Richard from the hospital to start a bigger conversation in our community about healthcare in general. We need a bigger task force that looks beyond just EMS. We've got to talk about healthcare, period, in our community. We've been dealt some blows lately with the Mercy Clinic closing, cuts to other clinics. This is going to continue to happen, and what people in the public need to understand is this is not just an Ottumwa thing. This is a nationwide thing. And so what we have to do is rally together, all of us as a community, for what makes the most sense, how do we get people to care, what is that care, and what can we afford? And sometimes that may be adjusting our expectations. And so I'm not here to speak against or anything like that. I'm just saying we gotta be talking to each other. So Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council, it's an open public meeting. We posted on the county's website. And any information you would like to, I would like to come before you. Bill has talked to me about this. I'll give Bill a shout out. I would like to come at an appropriate time because I know you're very busy with budgets and just update you on what we've done for the last 6 months. I think we've made a lot of great progress. We have some products for you that can help you understand what our conversations are and what kind of things we're studying and looking at. And I would love to do that when it makes sense for you. So if maybe Phil, you could lead that because you kind of the holder of the calendar, I think, of what's going on.
Yeah,
as far as
let me
council meetings.
know a meeting.
So let Bill know what makes sense for you for a council meeting for me to be at, that I won't make it 3 hours long. I don't want to do that to you. So yeah, I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's next Tuesday. There's the first and third Tuesday of every month.
I think that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have you added under the admin report.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you all for coming too. If there isn't anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway. Councilmember Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilmember Dupre.
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.